This principle is the difference between a trained fighter and an untrained fighter. The essential difference between those two fighters is that the trained fighter knows both because he was the untrained guy at one time. The untrained person can be very predictable, but they can also be very, very unpredictable. They're difficult to deal with in some ways and very easy to deal with in some other ways. So a trained fighter, this is the dichotomy situation again. We talked about that on a different principle, but in its ideal situation, the trained fighter knows very likely what the untrained fighter is going to do because he's been that guy. He understands that when he makes this move, that guy's very likely to make one or two different moves, and that's what's going to happen. The untrained guy doesn't even know himself what he's going to do. He's not even aware of the fact that he's being manipulated. He's being emotionally controlled. So the ideal of it is that when you've been through training, you understand the other person better than they understand themselves. That doesn't always hold true because sometimes people will do crazy things. They'll do irrational things. And for the life of you, you can't figure out why would anybody do that. That person's not even sure why they did it themselves. So this is one of those situations where it should play out a certain way, but then again, it may not. You may end up having this reversal of it that says, well, the trained guy knows both guys until the untrained guy goes crazy or does something completely irrational that he never expected. But for the most part, the trained fighter understands what that person's likely to do. And because he has that knowledge, he or she can control the situation. Whereas the untrained guy is just reacting off of fear, reacting off of anger. So think about it in your life. The more you can become skilled in mastering your own emotions, your own responses, the more you can reflect back upon the decisions that you've made, the better off you are relating to other people because you've been that person. You know what that's like. So you won't be as triggered. I don't get as triggered. I deal with a lot of people, and they're from all walks of life. But I've done it for so long now, I have a pretty good idea where they're coming from because I've dealt with similar things. I know what it feels like to be afraid. I know what it feels like to be frustrated and depressed. I also know what it feels like to think you've got all the answers and that you're going to set the world on fire. I know what that's like as well. So the idea is that through practice and training, you can not just only master yourself, but hopefully be a little bit more giving and caring and sympathetic and open to the other guy because you've been down his path. You know what he's suffering with. You know what he's dealing with. So think about that in your own life and realize that as you start to master yourself, it makes you a much more tolerant person. You're not as easily triggered, and it's just a better way to be all the way around. So the trained guy in martial arts is very calm most of the time. He's been there, he's done it, he's seen it. He's not so apt to respond just out of emotion, and that's really the difference between the trained and untrained fighter.